Greetings, travelers. I streamed Doki Literature Club Plus for something like a collective 12 hours, and started to lose my voice doing so. So that was an experience. I do have the live streams unlisted, but I will link them in this description if you want to watch all of that, which is the real reason I make these videos, so that there is an archive for my old live streams. If you never played the original Doki Literature Club, I highly recommend playing the game yourself first. Just heed the content warnings and enjoy the ride. With that being said, I'm going to include a bunch of spoilers in this video, so if you somehow don't know anything about this game yet, you should definitely try it out with as little information ahead of time. You can still play the original version for free if you don't want to shell out for the new HD version with additional content. Although if this video itself is extra crusty, that's because I'm downloading my stream VODs and basically triple compressing them. The game itself looks very good. With that spoiler warning out of the way, Doki Literature Club is one of my favorite visual novel experiences. I've played quite a few of these over the years, and I can say DDLC has managed to invoke stronger emotions from me in 5 hours than most VNs could do in 500. Honestly, the part that might surprise you, I've always enjoyed the first act of the game, before all the freaky shit starts happening. I do like the creepy part of the game too, don't get me wrong, but I always felt like the first half sticks with me many years later. Listening to Sayori talk about her struggle with depression and how it makes her feel and act hits a little bit too close to home. Not to share too much about myself, but I've been in some dark places before, and Sayori's description was pretty relatable and eye-opening. I also made the mistake of not playing the entire game in one session when I first played it, and I was mentally broken for like a day until I could finish the rest of it. There is a lot to be said about how powerful that one scene is when Sayori's special moment is still immortalized by the fanbase, but for me it's not just because of the twist, but also because your decisions literally don't matter. If you accept Sayori's confession or not, the end result is the same, and the main character is left saying that if he made the other choice, then he would have avoided it, when really, there was nothing you can do. Me being a fully grown man that drinks copious amounts of alcohol and eats nails for breakfast, I usually cry a little bit during that part of the game. Just kidding, I'm not a big strong man. I am a dude who's very in touch with his own feelings and doesn't care if he gets emotional from reading fiction. Hell, I even cried watching Your Name at a theater. Even after you feel like you get over it, you can listen to some of Monika's lines at the end of the game where she talks about how Sayori regrets her decision and that's why her hands are all bloody because she tried to save herself in a last-ditch effort. It's pretty fucking brutal when this game wants to be. So DDLC Plus has not really changed anything about the core game. It's preserved almost exactly the same, with only the real changes being graphical updates. If you're playing through the base game and expecting anything new though, you're not going to find it here. Supposedly, there are some additional jump scares and more possible creepy things that can happen, but in my playthrough, nothing stuck out as being completely fresh, other than how fresh those new graphics are. Hell yeah. Another noticeable difference though is that during the Monika ending, where the game usually drops your real name, it didn't do that for me. I still had the jump scare that you get for having recording software going, so I'm making an assumption here, but the game might actually avoid giving your real name if you are streaming. Although I cannot confirm or deny that because I am purely speculating and haven't researched that point at all. Game journalism mode activated, but that's the core. However, this version has console support, so most people are probably a little bit confused because you have to delete files from the original game, so how did they do that this time around? Simple. When you try to close DDLC, you'll be brought to a fake desktop where you can access the game files to affect the game DDLC within this fake computer interface. This also keeps track of all the scenes that you view across multiple playthroughs and allows you to replay the game a bunch and collect all the secrets, which is a nice little upgrade compared to the original game. Not to say that DDLC has the best replay value in the world, but it feels a lot nicer this time around because you don't lose everything every time you reset the game. To unlock certain things will require you to manually mash through all the text after Yuri dies, or listening to at least 15 of Monika's lines in the Monika ending, which I guess is fun if you want to obtain 100% completion. The only real complaint I have is that some things are not really possible anymore, as far as I can tell, such as putting Monika back in the game after deleting her, or trying to decipher the character files to see what other secrets they are hiding. The other thing I kind of wish this game had was a scary part of the game where Natsuki dies, because it would have felt more complete. That's actually a pretty fucked up statement in hindsight, but you know what I mean. This metaverse also has some greater lore implications for those who want to dig into it, but I'm not here to talk about that. What I'm here for are the side stories, baby. If you want to unlock the side stories, you're going to have to play through each girl's route in the base game. So writing 3 poems in a row for the same girl and getting all that dialogue. When you do this, this will allow you to get side stories from the metagame desktop. And these side stories were not at all what I expected, but I loved them anyways. My chat and I were waiting for some crazy shit to happen, and then boom! Nothing creepy happened at all. Instead, I was greeted with an incredible series of wholesome side stories with characters overcoming their emotional struggles and understanding each other better while growing as a person. It's honestly awesome. That same feeling that I had listening to Sayori talk about her depression and her struggles really resonates with all of the characters in these side stories, talking about what they deal with as a person and other great topics, such as, but not limited to, separating your interests from your personality and how it's important to not take it personally when people don't like things that you like. How we often have negative feelings, but that doesn't make us a bad person because that would mean acting on said mean feelings, and just a lot of other good shit that was all condensed, but it landed really well with me. I can say that these also really helped develop out the characters more in a way that was intentionally avoided in the original game. Is this going to be for everyone? No. This plays out more like a kinetic novel, and it's fun if you're into it, but if you're here for the freaky aspects of the game, you probably won't like it as much. Although if you do like the small amount of character development in the core and wanted some more of it, then you've come to the right place. It even gives more development to Monica that probably has some lore implications to it, but once again, that's not something that I'm going to go into. So with all of that, I think people will wonder, is this game worth $15 for the amount of additional content? No. But I also think that the original game was honestly worth a little bit more than free. I'd also say that this version is probably worth about $10 in my opinion, but you know what? I'll throw in an extra $5 in there for Dan Salvato and bringing about this franchise. In other words, I think it's more than worth it to support the dev team, and the game is definitely worth $15 in my opinion. If you never had a chance to play the original, and you've listened to my spoilers anyways, it's a good idea to try this version, and if it's been a few years since you've done a playthrough, it's still good to come back and be traumatized again. I can definitely say though, that if Dan Salvato is making another game that isn't DDLC and isn't psychological thriller based, given what he put into these side stories, I anticipate that to be very good in its own right. I really can't understate how impressive it is, and how much he could fit in so little. Now let's get out there and reset the game 100 times in Act 2 to get those secrets.